maintain troop forces in 163 foreign countries, handing out billions in aid every year. If it fails even to secure its own border, David Tafuri is an international lawyer who advised President Obama's campaign, and he joins us tonight. David, thanks very much for coming on. So it's a really simple question. It's not an argument against helping the Ethiopian Navy. They need help. They don't even have water. So there's a lot to do. But it's a question of priorities. Why wouldn't you first put those troops on our border to protect this country?
Well, as you highlighted, our troops do great things all over the world. We're in many different countries. That's how we project power. That's also how we build up militaries in friendly countries. So if we need to work with those militaries in the future, we know that we can rely on them and that we have a strong partnership with them. So places like Ethiopia, like Denmark, other places that you mentioned, our soldiers are doing great work there. It's important. I think we all agree that, as you mentioned, America is the most generous country in the world. It's also the most powerful country in the world. And it's the country that really needs to lead right now. We are being challenged by China. We're being challenged by Russia. China is doing some of those things. Would you prefer to have America and American troops doing these things around the world, or would you prefer to have China? That's one question.
Well, but hold on. But I would also.
This president, one thing this president has done is built up the military.
I'm going to stop your filibuster right there and just ask you a very simple question.
Go ahead.
We've had your foreign policy for 20 years, and we have funded a number of foreign wars. And I would ask you, at the end of that period, is America stronger than it was in 1999? And the answer, of course, no, it's much weaker than it was. So it's not working, so why would we keep doing it?
Well, first of all, we didn't have my foreign policy. I didn't set the foreign policy over the last 20 years. I didn't support the decision to invade Iraq in 2003, although I went to Iraq in 2006 and 2007 during the war to try and help out. I think a lot of the things that our troops have done have made the world safer. We also have new challenges that we didn't have before, like the challenge that was posed by Al-Qaeda when we were attacked on 9/11, like the challenge posed by ISIS in 2014. These were substantial challenges that resulted in terrorist attacks that killed Americans. So our troops are helping make America safer by fighting Al-Qaeda and ISIS and other terrorist organizations in those countries.
Syria, before they get to Syracuse. Yeah, I've heard the talking point. But I'm wondering, the justification for continuing to send aid to Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador is that if we don't, a lot of their population will move here. But wait, we've been sending money to those countries for 20 years, and a third of El Salvador already lives here, and they're continuing to stream in from the other countries. Why would we keep doing this?
The immigration situation at the border is constantly changing. So 20 years ago, there were a lot of Mexican immigrants coming across the border.
No, I know the story. I don't know if
That's actually gone down. And there are not that many Mexicans. Now, as you highlighted, it's people from countries in Central America, Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, for instance. These are economic migrants. They're leaving because they face dire economic situation in their countries and because there are not jobs in those countries. So one reason to continue the aid and to use the aid effectively is to help those countries create. Just let me finish. Let me finish.
No, because you're actually wrong.
Jobs, so we address the problem there rather than addressing the problem at our border.
Okay. We've tried it for 20 years. It hasn't worked. But they're not actually facing dire economic consequences. The per capita income in Nigeria...
They are.
No. The per capita income in many countries around the world is much lower than it is in those three countries. For example, Nigeria.
We're not talking about Nigeria, Tucker. We're talking about Honduras.
No, hold on. Nigeria is 191 million people. 191 million Nigerians.
But Nigerians are not coming to the border with Mexico.
Why shouldn't they? But hold on. Why shouldn't they? By your reasoning, poor people have a right to come here because they're poor. Well, then why doesn't the rest of the world have a right to come here? Sincere question.
No, I never said that. I never said they have the right to come here. I do not agree with that. I think we have the right to control our border, and we have the right to turn them away. But what I'm saying is they're going to keep coming until we help them address their economic situation. We can ignore their economic situation, and we cannot help them with improving their economy. But if we do that, they will keep coming.
We've done it, and it doesn't work, and nobody understands.
They'll come by boat.
Let me just say,
for instance,
not one person
you talked about
knows how to
Africa
fix
and
the
migrants from
economy
Africa.
Of Central America.
Let me make one point.
I'll give you one sentence. We got to go. We're out of time.
You know, migrants from Africa are going to Europe in droves, and they don't even have a land border with Europe. They go by boat. They go other ways. So just building a border on the land between Mexico and the U.S. isn't going to stop migrants from coming. So that's one reason why we should try to help these countries address the situation.
We already are
in the
helping
country
them,
so they don't come here.
Right, it's our fault. Okay.
Not enough, and not well enough, and not effectively enough. We have to, reorganize USAID. We have to do it better.
Because once you've done that, you've also cured pancreatic cancer, which is probably a little easier than figuring out the riddle that you say you have the answer to. But it's great to see you. Thank you.